Hello and welcome to round 2 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast. I'm Catherine Haleko and I'm here with Terri Morrow. Say hi, Terri.
Hello.
Usually on this podcast we talk about parenting issues, but once a week Terri and I like to get together to discuss TV, movies, books, and other entertainment topics because it's nice to talk about something other than parenting for a change. So this week we had a double challenge round to follow up our double finale round.
Yeah.
That was last week. But we also returned to the West Wing alongside the West Wing Weekly podcast. So we're going to start there with an episode from season 5 called On Key, I believe was the pronunciation they used. So this one we had in the present day kind of a crisis with some American military personnel that were missing that had to be rescued from North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And then a flashback of Leo and his wartime buddy, Ken O'Neill, who had saved him saved his life in the Vietnam War, but now is up to some shady business dealings.
Poor Leo.
So what are your thoughts on this one, Terri?
Well, it appears that I'm going to be a bad marathon person. And since I saw this one the first time through, I chose not to watch it again. I am going to make a rule that episodes where a beloved character gets their heart stomped on for no enduring plot reasons, I'm just going to give him a pass. The first time through, I skipped the one where that happened to Josh. I watched it this time, and it did have some connection to the plot. But, the one with Toby and now this one, these are one-off episodes that are just about misery, and I got enough. I got enough on my plate. It's like, I don't need to be unrelentingly entertained, but when you have Leo being heartbroken by an old friend and then CJ having to deal with some bleep on a talk show, that doesn't sound like a fun 45 minutes to me. So I'm going to skip it. I mean, there's things coming up for these characters that will be hard, that at least have some significance and meaning, as has been true in the past, Right. The kidnapping plotline was certainly difficult, but it had an arc and it had stuff to it. It had weight to it. These two, this is going to be a thing, and then it's never going to be heard from again. So yeah, I'm skipping it. And I listened to the podcast, the West Wing Weekly podcast for this episode first before I'd watched the episode, and I was like, oh, that one. No, thank you. So did I miss anything good? I was curious about the culmination of the multi-episode Ben tease, and believe that the culmination of it was pretty much meh. Well, yeah, and it was so meh that you want to wonder if they're still not done, because it had been turning up at long last in CJ's office, and where he was greeted by a very enthusiastic Carol. And then CJ never even talked to him, right? I don't think she talked to him. He dropped off the somewhat creepy item of a old picture of her in a bikini. And then he left, and I don't think that, I don't know, but I feel like we're never going to hear about this ever again. I honestly don't remember how that thing ended, except I've remembered all along that there was really nothing to it. But I can tell you that it does not wind up being a significant plot line ever, ever, ever. And possibly this was the end of it. Yeah, and even the way it was shot, which they did bring up on the podcast also, you saw Carol sitting at her desk and you knew that Ben was sitting next to her desk talking to her, and the camera panned sort of. First you saw Carol, and then it slowly zoomed around the corner and through the doorway, and you finally got to see him. And it was just a guy, it was nobody special. So, as I said on the podcast, they made it seem like it was going to be Robert Redford sitting there. And it was not, no
no slight to the guy who played Ben, but yeah, no.
I wonder what the deal was with that. If there was something, that they were going to go somewhere with that and then they decided not to, or the actor was not available, or, they just didn't have enough time, because it was so much buildup. It's been built up for episodes, and they're just, I knew there was nothing to it. And why, oh why, did the actor just know John Wells and say, hey, you know what, I'm a little short on my house payment this week. Could you just write me in for like
Can I just something
30 seconds?
Yeah, it was very odd.
So another reason it's like, you know what, if you guys aren't even going to try harder than that, I'm just going to give this one a skip. Thanks.
I'm just going to skip it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Spencer was, of course, amazing in this heartbreaking storyline.
Yes. I've seen him devastated before in other episodes, though, that had more weight to them. So I'll pass on this one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It just seems like, here's a guy you've never heard from before, gonna come and do this terrible thing, and then we're never gonna hear from him again.
Right.
But
and we never saw him.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, but we're just going to let, it's just Leo's turn to suffer.
Yeah, it's time for him to twist.
No, thank you.
Well, he wanted an Emmy, so
that's true.
Another
yes,
Emmy.
I haven't had a lot to do this season. Could you give me a chance to do the crinkly faces as they were talking about on West Wing?
Right.
He does have good crinkly faces.
But it was quite noticeable, I feel like, as Joshua Molina was mentioning, that his character has had nothing to do for weeks on end.
Enjoy that paycheck, man. I like it that he is an actor who can acknowledge that and yet at the same time say, you know what? I'm not short on my house payment this month, and I'm just very happy. So, yeah, well, it picks up. It will pick up for him. They do find something for him to do. But I'm pretty sure it doesn't really start taking off till next season. I'm not 100% sure of the timeline. But when you get there, you will know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And in the meantime, he gets his little bit to do and his paycheck, and good for him.
And that'll have to do.
Not too proud.
And CJ going on the Jay Moore show.
Yeah,
his name wasn't Jay Moore, but it was fine. Like at first, it started out where she was being raked over the coals, and then she kind of found her groove and started talking back to him, and then that was over.
Even though I know she's going to talk back to him, and it's going to wind up being at least a wash, if not a win for her, I still don't want to hear that stuff. I don't want to hear people being mean to her. Right. She needs to snap them like a twig immediately, or I just don't want to be there.
Yeah.
So
I get it. I get it for sure. And that was we talked about this before, but that whole thing was out of character for her and for her team.
To be egging her on.
To be egging her on, and for her to want to do that, and for her not to just dismiss him as a troll and see it for what it was. For some reason she couldn't do that. So
it's just a lot of weird stuff.
False note to that character.
I feel like more and more in this season 5 we're getting false notes.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting false notes and easy drama, just things without long-term consequences that are just there for temporary emotional turmoil, including random old boyfriends. Who cares?
Exactly.
There's an old boyfriend of CJ's I'd like to see again, but it's not that guy. So
maybe later.
Yes.
So yeah, that's kind of what that was, and maybe we should just put it behind us.
Move on
and move on.
Shake the dust from our feet.
Yes, exactly. So we had decided we suspended the challenge rounds for a while when we were watching too many other things. So we did a double this week to kind of make up for it, and you challenged me to watch the pilot of Elementary.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a show my husband and I have really enjoyed. It is a CBS procedural version of Sherlock Holmes, and got a lot of attention right at the beginning for gender-flipping Watson, who is played by Lucy Liu. And I am happy to say that it's been on for, I guess it's into 7 seasons now, and they still have not done any sort of romance between the two of them, or any, even that scene at the beginning where he says that love at first sight thing to her is the closest they've gotten to it. So, which was a complete fake out. So they've held on to their, no, we're not doing this, so that they can eventually wind up together. It's nice. A friendship and a working relationship, a very good working relationship. So I really enjoy the show. I find it a lot of fun. It's a good multitasking show. And I think the acting on it is very good. The plots are procedural stuff, but he has particular spin on it. And he does not really get to be much less of a, that's a nice word that I can use on a podcast, jerk. He's pretty jerky. He stays pretty jerky. But it's the way they use that is fun. And the way she increasingly gets him and deals with it is fun. Right. I always like seeing Aidan Quinn as the captain. He's always nice. The guy that they had as a detective in the pilot, I think he's gone by the second episode because there's a different character who takes over and is much better. I liked better. So it looks to me like he started in the second episode. So it's the pilot was a pretty good indication of the way the show is going to go. And what did you think of it? Did you, you're not a big procedural person, but I know you do have some familiarity with Sherlock Holmes. It was a different spin on it, but...
Yeah, it was fun. I have watched like maybe 1 or 2 of the, is it a BBC?
I think
Sherlock Holmes, the one with Benedict
Cumberbatch.
Amazing so yes, I have watched a couple of those. And yeah, I enjoyed this one too. I mean, I think, the appeal of the procedural is just like you drop in, you watch it. If you kind of care about the people like Holmes and Watson, then you can keep going.
Right.
And I did enjoy them. I liked Lucy Liu. I liked, I was kind of like freaked out at first when she showed up at his house. I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to be the next dead person. Which I knew couldn't be true because she's on the show. Right. But they did a good job with that sort of suspense of why is he so weird and scary? Yeah. And then you kind of she sort of starts to figure him out and figure out how to deal with him, and that was well done.
Yeah, so. They have a very, very enjoyable relationship, I think, for partners. Because usually it is true that most procedurals, it tends to be like a female cop and a guy who's not really a cop but is good at detecting, or vice versa. And then eventually they're going to get together. But I appreciate very much that has never been part of the equation in this. So they've done a very good job keeping that up. They do gender flip another standard character from Sherlock Holmes and do make a romance out of that, but it's not Watson. So I enjoyed watching this pilot again. It's funny. I watched it with my husband, who's like, I don't remember any of this. It's like you watch enough episodes, they all sort of blend together. Many years. Yeah, but you always know the patterns. If we're often watching things on DVR, and it's like, if they think they found the guilty person, I go, check the time. How much more time do we have? 20 minutes? Right. It's not this guy. It's somebody else. And then it's got to be somebody that we've seen before. If you're at that point in the episode, they're not going to bring in a new person. So it's like the super who let him in the apartment, or it's the guy you interviewed for something, or it's always going to be somebody that you've seen before. So it's sort of easy to sort of fun to figure it out that way. But I was like, the rice, the phone's in the rice. Oh my gosh, I got it. That was fun.
And I never get those things. So.
Well, I mean, I didn't think of it when I saw it in the first place. But when they started talking about the rice, I'm like, what could the rice have anything to... I know what it is. It's what you put your phone in when you drop it in the water.
Right. Very good.
That was cool. So very fun.
Yeah, I thought it was it was well done, and it was a neat. The gender flip was just like, it's just like their little hook, you know. And then
absolutely.
Beyond that, it's still Sherlock Holmes.
Yes.
You know, it's still the same type of personality and method of solving crimes. So
yes,
yeah,
so very enjoyable.
Very enjoyable. Would watch more.
Good. And now that you know that you can watch them on demand, just not at the beginning of the.
Yeah,
you have to skip
for some
ahead.
reason, there's like many seasons of it on demand, including season 1, but not the pilot. So,
well, you can easily jump in for a little later. The only thing that will be different is the detective will be Marcus Bell and not whoever that guy was. But anyway, but he's very good. We interrupt this podcast to remind you to please consider the free Radio Public app for all your Parenting Roundabout listening needs. If you listen to our podcast on the app, we'll get paid a little for each listen and more if you listen a lot.
It's a great way to financially support our podcast without having to actually spend, money.
Now, back to the episode. And so then you challenged me to watch something which was very different than that.
It was very different.
But also fun and enjoyable.
Both of the things we've watched. So, you have never seen an episode of Fixer Upper, which I find hard to believe because it is ubiquitous.
Whenever I'm watching, it's just an HGTV, right?
Yeah.
I must watch whatever time of night it is when it's just house hunters after house hunters after house hunters. That's what always seems to be on there when I go on.
Yes, that is definitely a common scenario. But so Fixer Upper, if our listeners have never seen, is this couple based in Waco, Texas, and they buy these homes that you just cannot believe the prices they pay for these houses. Like the one in this episode, $50,000.
Oh my gosh!
For the whole house.
Just from the start, even because they were in Texas, right? So
they're always in Waco.
I have a a New Jersey real estate sensibility. So even the higher prices were, oh my gosh.
I know. Yeah. So they buy, it's a very traditional formula. They have some clients, they show them 3 houses, the clients pick which one, and then they do this big renovation. And in the end, honestly, beautiful. They all look the same. They all look very nice, but she definitely has a style.
Yes, I was going to say that. She has a definite style, but I like it.
Yeah.
It's just to see a house come together from a mess to something beautiful makes me wish that somebody could come and do that for me.
Yes.
For free, but
exactly. Still. Right.
Or for $50,000. No.
Yeah.
How much was their renovation budget though was like $150,000.
Yeah.
But that was beautiful.
So what did you think? I mean, I think the biggest appeal of the show is the interplay between Chip and JoJo, the hosts.
I enjoyed that quite a lot. It reminded me a lot of, since I hadn't seen them before, it reminded me a lot of a podcast we listened to, Young House Love, and the sort of the banter that they do. But I'm sure it's more based on Chip and Joanna than vice versa. But I enjoyed their interaction very much, and all the sort of y'alls and ways of talking and stuff. And I can see how there would be people who probably would not enjoy that, but I do. I enjoyed their shtick quite a lot, and it made it for me somewhat. Because I've seen other sort of renovation shows, so that part is not that unusual. I liked that. I mean, I guess it's a pattern on these shows that they always have to find something that was unexpected. But the something that was unexpected in this was so minor that, it wasn't like you have to give up something else that you want to fix.
Right.
Your foundation is going to fall through, so you cannot have your kitchen, which is, I guess, what is it, Love It or List It, that always does that. There's always some catastrophic thing that makes you give up that thing you really wanted. It was just sort of like, so they called the guy up and he said, oh yeah, sure, just Go ahead and do it.
Yes, please fix my foundation, because it was a foundation.
Yeah, and it was like a relatively minor expense in the greater scheme of things. It
really was, especially when their total budget was definitely over $100,000.
But the couple was very cute. I enjoyed them, and I enjoyed the two hosts, and I enjoyed looking at what they came up with, and I enjoyed looking at the houses before. Just everything about it is just the kind of relaxing, enjoyable TV I like to watch even when there's 500 things on my DVR that I should be getting to. It's just, I'm just gonna sit here and look at pretty houses.
It's very soothing.
And wish I lived
very
there.
Soothing. And then you get, your chuckles here and there by listening to Chip, because he's just a goofball.
I enjoyed his goofballness very much.
And sometimes they have one of the guys that does the work, his name is Shorty, and they have him and Shorty are like crossing the room by hanging from the beams like they're monkey bars, or stuff like that. Yeah. Like there's these side characters like Shorty and the carpenter Clint.
Yeah.
Who's in this episode. So.
Yeah, I really enjoy that. I think that there are probably people who would not. I can see that. But for me, this is just sort of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Of just,
I agree.
Enjoyable, funny people making pretty things. And doing it in a lighthearted way, not stressing out, not competing with anybody, just making jokes and fixing stuff up. And the people, I don't know if that's the case in all the episodes of this, but the people who were buying the house seemed relatively sane and to understand what they were getting into, and not walking around going, this is not right, this is never going to be done, as it is in some shows. Maybe they do. Maybe this was just a particularly low-key couple. But they seemed really cool with it. They seemed... Yeah,
they're the people are usually more like that, I would say, on this show. I've seen many an episode.
They seem like they've seen it. They've watched many an episode also, so they kind of know.
Right.
Oh, this is the part where they have a picture of the old house and they pull it aside and we go, oh!
Yeah, so, they do that every time.
Yep. So. It was very pretty. They took out like a pillar from the living room. I wish they had given some explanation about what it wasn't really a pillar, it was like a half wall or like a quarter wall, which was ugly and had to go. But I wish there had been some explanation of what it was doing there and why it's okay to just remove it. Because I would have thought, doesn't something fall in when you do that?
Yeah, usually they do explain that.
I expected that. This is a style of house where they did this thing and we don't do that anymore. So this is what we do to shore up the floor. And can you just take stuff out like that? I didn't think you could.
Well, usually they have to put in a beam. And if they take out something that's weight-bearing, some sort of column or pillar or wall,
honestly,
then they put in a giant beam.
Yeah. I would think that they would need something like that, or just replace it with something prettier. Like a little wall of glass bricks or something wouldn't have been bad. Or I don't know, something seems to have needed to be done.
If in doubt on this show, they will always remove walls.
Yeah, they're not going to be there later on when you put your foot through the floor.
always open
That's
concept.
Their thing. So. Open concept is the thing, but nice, so pretty,
so pretty and
makes
soothing.
Me wish
so
I had a house like that. That's the only problem with these things is then you look around your house and you go bleh.
Yeah, exactly.
When do I get a house like that?
When do I? Well, when you move to Waco, Terry, you can have it.
I guess so. I don't know. Yeah, that's the thing is I'm every now and then my husband and I think about moving to some place where houses are cheaper and taxes are less, and it's like we would have to move pretty far away from where we are now. So darn those roots. But yeah.
Well,
it was fun. Thank you for challenging me to watch that. I will now seek it out.
You watched it, and now you have that in your vocabulary.
I do.
So
I enjoyed it very much.
So that'll be it for round 2. Next week we will continue with West Wing. The episode is called Full Disclosure.
Okay.
And Dancing with the Stars is coming back. Yay! So we are just going to do those two things because we figure we'll have a lot to talk about with Dancing with the Stars.
The maximum number of celebrities will be in place. Yes. So we'll have to talk about all 50 of them. How many of them are there?
Right. Exactly.
There are a lot.
There's a lot.
They have not started falling like flies. So we will want to explain to each other who these people are.
Right.
We should have our kids on as guests to explain. My daughter could explain Milo Manheim and Grocery Store Joe. She'll take those two.
Okay. Maybe mine would know that Instagram person. And
Juan Pablo de Pace, is that his name? The guy from Fuller House. She could explain him also.
Oh, she's got
3 of them. Mm-hmm. But she doesn't watch the show and she doesn't vote. So this is what I wonder. What is their demo? Is their demo old ladies like me, in which case more Nancy McKeons, please? Or is it young kids, in which case you have to have the Disney Channel people that make everybody else go, huh? Who?
Right.
Anyway.
I don't know. It's a delicate balance.
It is. We shall discuss that more next week with all our extra time.
That's right. So please subscribe to our Parenting Roundabout podcast so you won't miss any of our episodes like that one. Mm-hmm. And our daily speed rounds, our weekly group chats. And as always, you can find recaps, links, and an opportunity to comment on our website at parentingroundabout.com. Goodbye, Terri.
Goodbye, Catherine.
Bye, everyone.